Hi, Cules. Here we are again, hearts in our mouths after last night's crazy match at Vallecas, where FC Barcelona let 2 points slip away with a 1-1 draw against Rayo Vallecano, a result that has sparked a lot of debate. But hold on tight, because the news setting social media and football discussions on fire isn't just the score, nor Joan Garcia's performance in goal, nor even Fran Perez's stunning equalizer. No, Cules, the bombshell of the day, the headline that leaves us all speechless, is that our Lamine Yamal, the 18-year-old gem wearing the number 10 and carrying Barca's future in his cleats, dropped a comment that turned Spanish football upside down. No, it wasn't a penalty. Yes, you read that right. Lamine, the very same player who won and converted the penalty that opened the scoring, admitted in a post-match interview that the action leading to Barca's 0-1 wasn't a clear foul. And if that's already driving you crazy, Cules, don't go anywhere, because this is just the beginning of a story with more twists than one of our young prodigy's dribbles. So get comfortable, because I'm going to tell you everything that happened in this match, from the pitch to the statements, with a touch of humor, but without losing sight of the facts. And if you're already freaking out, subscribe to the channel, because what's coming is even wilder. The match at Vallecas started like a rocket, with a frenetic pace that glued us to the screen from the first minute. Rayo, that team that always seems to play with an extra gear at home, came onto the pitch with their batteries fully charged, ready to show they're afraid of no one, not even the reigning champions. Under Nigo Perez's leadership, the Franjarojos put on a brave performance, pressing high and looking for spaces behind a Barca defense that, let's be honest, sometimes seems more open than the doors of a Primark during a sale. Barca, with ANS Flick on the bench, tried to impose their possession game, with Pedri pulling the strings like a DJ in a nightclub and Vicente, but they ran into a Rayo side that wasn't letting any ball go. In the 12th minute, Andre Reichu, Rayo's right back, had a chance after a cross from Alvaro Garcia. The ball fell to him in the 6-yard box, and as all of Vallecas was already celebrating the goal, Joan Garcia, the new hero in goal, pulled off a miraculous save that left the stadium in shock. Cules, if Joan isn't the best signing of the summer, someone please explain who is. Barca responded with flashes of quality, especially on the right wing, where Lamine Yamal started to work his magic. The kid, with that mix of audacity and class that reminds us of a certain Argentine who also wore the Blaugrana, moved like a fish in water, dribbling past opponents as if he were playing in the schoolyard. But beware, not everything was smooth sailing. Lamine lost a few balls in the early minutes, which had Flick holding his head in his hands, as if to say, "This kid is a genius, but sometimes he gives me gray hairs." Meanwhile, on the other side, Rayo kept pressing. And if Palazon, that winger who seems to have a magnet on his left foot, tried a shot that Joan Garcia deflected with a save worthy of a video game. The match was end-to-end, a spectacle that made you forget you had to wake up early the next day. And then, Cules, came the moment that changed the game. 38th minute. Lamine Yamal receives the ball on the right wing, enters the box like he's invited to a VIP party, and pulls off a feint that leaves Pep Chavarria, Rayo's fullback, looking like he's thinking, "What just happened here?" Lamine stretches out his leg. Chavarria tries to take the ball, and in a split second, referee Mateo Busquets Ferrer doesn't hesitate. Penalty. Vallecas erupts in protest. The Rayo players surround the referee as if he were the last donut in a bakery, and Nigo Perez's bench seems ready to declare independence. But here's the big issue. VAR, the tool that was supposed to end controversies, was more off than a nightclub on a Monday morning. Yes, Cules. For the first 40 minutes of the match, there was no communication between the referee and the control room in Los Rosas. A technical failure that left the referee alone in the face of danger, like a cowboy in a high-noon duel. Busquets Ferrer, unable to review the action, stuck with his decision, and Lamine, with the composure of a veteran, took the ball, placed it on the penalty spot, and beat Augusto Batalla with a shot that went straight into the back of the net. 0-1 to Barca, and Lamine celebrates as if he's placing an invisible crown on his head, a nod to his nickname as the King of Rocafonda. The stadium, meanwhile, was shouting Liga de __, in a mix of rage and resignation. But Cules, that's not all. During halftime, as fans debated in the stands over whether it was a penalty or not, something even more surprising happened in the tunnel to the dressing rooms. ISI Palazon, Rayo's winger, was caught on camera telling his teammates, "Guys, the referee admitted his mistake." Yes, you heard right. According to Palazon, Busquets Ferrer admitted that the penalty wasn't won, that he'd made a mistake by awarding it. Imagine the faces of the Rayo players, who were already heated over that decision. Nigo Perez, Rayo's coach, was so outraged that, according to reports, he even considered having his team walk off the pitch. "We're leaving," he said before, by chance or bad luck, common sense, or maybe the pressure to avoid a bigger scandal, took over. The second half started with VAR finally working, but the damage was done. LAMINE's penalty was already on the scoreboard, and Rayo, morally down, had to climb back up. The second period was a spectacle of intensity. Rayo, far from giving up, came out with everything. Fran Perez, who came on like a tornado, equalized in the 67th minute with a superb volley from a corner that caught Barca's defense off guard. Joan Garcia, who was already earning the MVP title, continued to make impossible saves, including one from Jorge de Frutos that even forced Rayo fans to applaud reluctantly. Barca, for their part, had their chances. Dani Olmo, who is still searching for his place in the team, missed a chance in the 6-yard box that had flicked tearing his hair out. LAMINE, always active, put in a cross with the outside of his foot that was pure caviar, but Eric Garcia, who isn't exactly a killer in the box, sent the ball into the clouds. The match ended 1-1, with Rayo even having a goal disallowed for offside in the final seconds and Barca leaving Vallecas with more doubts than certainties. And now, Cules, we come to the moment that has everyone talking. Lamine Yamal's statements in the mixed zone, with DAZN microphones waiting for him, the young prodigy dropped the bombshell. "No, it wasn't a penalty. I threw myself a little, it's true, but hey, the referee whistled for it, and I took the penalty with confidence to help the team." Can you imagine the silence that settled over the press room? Lamine, with that mix of innocence and audacity that makes him unique, admitted what many suspected but no one expected to hear out loud. Social media exploded instantly. On X, Rayo fans were demanding divine justice, while Cules, between nervous laughter and memes, didn't know whether to applaud their star's honesty or cover their eyes at the chaos unfolding. Even Nigo Perez, who had already apologized for his shameful behavior by flipping a tablet on the bench, came out and said, "He's a young kid, we have to respect his honesty, but this shouldn't happen in an elite match." Flick, for his part, tried to downplay it. Lamine is a great player, but also human. We all make mistakes, and what matters is learning from them. Translation: please, someone tell this kid not to make these kinds of public statements. But Cules, let's clarify one thing. What happened with Lamine isn't just an anecdote. This 18-year-old kid shows a personality we don't see every day. He provoked the penalty, even though we now know it came with a bit of theatrics, and he converted it with a calmness many veterans would envy. Then he had the guts to admit it wasn't a penalty. How many players would do that? In a football world where everyone covers their tracks, Lamine lays out the truth like he's chatting with his friends in the neighborhood. And listen, this isn't just about honesty. His statement opened a huge debate about refereeing, VAR, and the pressure referees face in matches of this magnitude. Because let's be honest, VAR not working for 40 minutes in a 2025 La Liga match is like being told your brand new phone has no Wi-Fi. Unacceptable. And if this story is already boiling your blood, Cules, subscribe, because this isn't something you'll see on just any news channel, and there's even more to tell. The VAR malfunction isn't a minor detail. According to reports, communication between the referee and the VAR room was cut off from the start of the match, and although there was an attempt to fix it at the 12th minute, it wasn't restored until halftime. That means the penalty incident, already dubious in itself, couldn't be reviewed. The footage, which later circulated everywhere, shows Lamine stretching his leg to seek contact with Chavarria, but the contact is minimal, if there's any at all. For some experts, it was a clever move. For others, classic simulation. But without VAR, Busquets Ferrer had to rely on his instincts, and we know how that turned out. The Spanish Football Federation acknowledged the error, but that doesn't take away the bitterness for Rayo, who felt robbed at home, and not without reason. Imagine playing Monopoly and suddenly someone decides there's no bank to distribute the money. That's how chaotic the first half at Vallecas was. Reactions didn't take long. On X, the hashtags #LamineYamal and #VARGate trended within minutes. Some Cules defended Lamine, saying he's a genius and geniuses always spark controversy. Others, more critical, demanded the club give him a crash course in public relations to avoid unnecessary headlines. Rayo fans, meanwhile, couldn't contain their outrage. "Always the same, always Barca," one user wrote, while another shared a meme of Lamine with a diving mask, suggesting his fall in the box was Oscar-worthy. Even La Liga president Javier Tebas weighed in with a cryptic tweet: "Technology is a tool, not an excuse. We'll work to ensure this doesn't happen again." Translation: it's 2025, and this is a disaster. But Kules, let's put things in perspective. Lamine Yamal, at just 18 years old, is already the soul of the Blaugrana attack. His penalty goal, though controversial, was his second in La Liga this season and his first from the spot with the first team. His ability to dribble, create danger, and take responsibility is something we don't see every day. And yes, his post-match statement might have been a blunder, but it's also a reflection of his authenticity. In a world where players usually speak in clichés, Lamine says what he thinks, even if it means putting himself in an awkward spot. And listen, this isn't the first time this kid has made history. At 18 years and 49 days old, he became the youngest player to score a penalty in La Liga since the year 2000. If that's not worthy of a tip of the hat, I don't know what is. The match itself, beyond the controversy, left several lessons. For one, Barça showed they still have problems closing out away games. Flick, who isn't one to hide, admitted it in the press conference: "We made a lot of mistakes, we can play much better." Rayo was fantastic, and he's not wrong. The Barça defense, with Ronald Araujo and Jules Koundé at centre-back, struggled more than expected against Rayo's wingers' pace. Fortunately, Joan Garcia was imperial with 5 key saves that spared the team an even more painful defeat. In midfield, PEDRI was the beacon, but he lacked support. Marc Casado, who is making strides, still doesn't have the weight to control such an intense match, and Dani Olmo, still adapting, had a night to forget. On Rayo's side, you've got to tip your hat. Nico Perez has built a team that doesn't just compete but makes the big teams suffer. Players like Isi Palazon, Jorge de Frutos, and Fran Perez proved that Vallecas is a fortress. And if it weren't for Joan Garcia, we'd probably be talking about a home win. The draw, though fair, left a bitter taste for both teams. Barça, because they lost the chance to continue with a perfect record of wins. Rayo, because they felt 2 points were stolen with a penalty that wasn't won. And now, Kules, what do we do with Lamine? Because let's be honest, this kid is a treasure. His honesty, even if it earned him an uncomfortable headline, is something we don't see every day in modern football. But it's also true that Barça needs to protect him, not because he can't handle the pressure, he's already shown he has more personality than many veterans, but because these kinds of statements can fuel narratives that don't help the team or himself. In a football world where everything is amplified, admitting to simulation is like pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. But let's be clear, Lamine is not the villain here. The real issue is a refereeing system that, in 2025, continues to falter. If VAR had been working, maybe the incident would have been reviewed, and the penalty wouldn't have been awarded. Or maybe it would have. What's clear is that technology, which should be an ally, became the main character of the match, and not in a good way. The impact of this controversy goes far beyond the result. In the coming weeks, there will be a lot of talk about the need to improve the VAR system, the pressure referees face, and how a technical error can change the course of a match. The Spanish Football Federation has already promised to investigate what happened, but that won't return the points to Rayo, nor will it erase Barca's feeling of leaving Vallecas with a draw that tastes like too little. Meanwhile, Lamine Yamal remains at the center of attention. On X, the memes won't stop, from edited images of Lamine diving into a pool to comparisons with Neymar in his prime as a simulator. But there are also those who defend him tooth and nail, saying his honesty is a breath of fresh air in a sport where everything is too calculated. For Barca, this draw is a warning. The season is long, and with the Champions League on the horizon, Flick needs his team to step up. The next match against Valencia at the Olympic Stadium will be an opportunity to regain confidence. And for Lamine, this episode is another lesson in his meteoric career. Because, Kules, let's not fool ourselves, this kid is destined to define an era with his dribbles, his goals, and yes, his statements that make us laugh and suffer in equal measure. But let's be clear, Lamine is not the villain here. The real issue is a refereeing system that, in 2025, continues to falter. If VAR had been working, maybe the incident would have been reviewed, and the penalty wouldn't have been awarded. Or maybe it would have. What's clear is that technology, which should be an ally, became the main character of the match, and not in a good way. The impact of this controversy goes far beyond the result. In the coming weeks, There will be a lot of talk about the need to improve the VAR system, the pressure referees face, and how a technical error can change the course of a match. The Spanish Football Federation has already promised to investigate what happened, but that won't return the points to Rayo, nor will it erase Barca's feeling of leaving Vallecas with a draw that tastes like too little. Meanwhile, LAMINE YAMAL remains at the center of attention. On X, the memes won't stop, from edited images of LAMINE diving into a pool to comparisons with Neymar in his prime as a simulator. But there are also those who defend him tooth and nail, saying his honesty is a breath of fresh air in a sport where everything is too calculated. For Barca, this draw is a warning. The season is long, and with the Champions League on the horizon, Flick needs his team to step up. The next match against Valencia at the Olympic Stadium will be an opportunity to regain confidence. And for LAMINE, this episode is another lesson in his meteoric career. Because, Cules, let's not fool ourselves, this kid is destined to define an era with his dribbles, his goals, and yes, his statements that make us laugh and suffer in equal measure. Football, Cules, is exactly this: passion, controversy, and an 18-year-old kid who, with a ball at his feet and a microphone in front of him, can turn the world upside down.